This episode is brought to you by eLiquid. For 20% off your first purchase, visit eliquid.com/madcast and use the promo code MADCAST during checkout. Welcome to the best debate in the universe. Every debate in the universe, from being depressed to #blessed. With over 4 million downloads, I'm your host, Maddox. It's the Rear Admiral of Tangents, Ron Babcock.
Thank you, Maddox.
And special guest this week, Kirk Wilcox.
Boom shakalaka.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
To the show. Guys, amazing show this week. This is a debate we're going to do this week that we haven't done very much on the show, especially lately. We're going to get a little bit political. That's right. Especially because the elections are coming up. The midterm elections in the United States. Now, I know that we have a lot of international listeners. I know we have people who listen to us in Europe and...
Well, who cares? American politics is the only politics that matters.
Hey, there you go. Whoops. I should also introduce our guest this week, Kirk Wilcox. Welcome back to the show. Kirk is a comedian.
Yes.
Writer.
YouTuber,
that's right, yeah.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah, really funny guy. And you're a satirist. You write a lot of satire.
Yes, I do Carnegie Times, which I need to update again. I'm mainly on YouTube, and I make memes on Twitter. I do stand-up. I do it all.
That's right. And I got to say, I think a few of your articles have gone viral, haven't they?
A few of them, yeah.
Yeah. It's good stuff. And where can people find that?
CarnegieTimes.com, where you can follow me on Twitter /Kirk Wilcox. Go to YouTube /Kirk Wilcox.
Yeah.
Kirk Wilcox.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great stuff. And Kirk,
I'm all over the place. I'm in the nightmares of children. I do it all.
You've been on a few times on the show. I believe we deputized you as a moderator at one point.
Was I?
You're a deputy moderator. Yeah. I should remember everyone's titles, because Dreadmere has also been on a bunch of times. He was on last week. Mm-hmm. And boy, man, we got so many voicemails.
Oh, we did. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Dreadmere couldn't make it today. He had to work, unfortunately. But I should also
work on his arguments.
Yeah, well, after he got lit up this week, man, we got so many voicemails. I'm actually saving some for the next time he's on the show.
Oh, awesome, excellent.
Yeah, I'll play a few of them, but they were lighting him up. We got so many, and we also have eliquid.com back, guys. eLiquid, thank you to our sponsor, eliquid.com. Madcast is the code. We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Deputy Vaporator. Yeah, eliquid.com.
I got my little vape stick over here. It's badass. I'm into it.
I don't smell any flavor. You got to get some strawberry or grape in there.
Oh, yeah? You better check your nose, because I got some.
I will tell you, I was going to save this. So I did cook the burgers out of the Butcher Box.
Oh, from Butcher Box. Yeah.
Yeah, so Mary, because we were going to have you over for burgers, and we weren't able to connect. So we cooked the burgers. I cooked the burgers for my lady. And first of all, they were the best burger I ever made.
Really?
Bar none. And she kept looking at me while she was eating. She's like, this is a really good burger. And then she's like, take another bite. She's like, this is a really good burger. So the burger, I got to work my way through the other meat.
Yeah.
But the burger so far was really good meat.
I did we're doing this random plug in the middle of this episode. But I did cook the sirloin tips.
Oh, how they turned out?
Oh, fantastic. I made kind of a ponzu sauce. I used ponzu sauce as a base, along with some other Korean. It's not soy sauce, but kind of similar. And when you cook it down with the fat from the meat, it simmers, and it creates kind of this, almost like a gravy for the meat.
Yeah.
And you just do some fresh cracked pepper in there. Oh, it's fantastic.
Well, the thing is, I like cooking a lot of my burgers. I prefer to cook on the stovetop rather than on the grill, only because I'm not good at cooking on the grill. And most people who use a grill don't know what the fuck they're doing. But I'm really good on stovetop. So I always like cooking on a stovetop, hamburgers there, because I feel like I can control it way better. But when you cook it on a grill, most people just overcook it, and they're just using some shitty, fucking frozen, and you're like, oh, here's a burger. And you're like, no, this is, all I taste is ketchup and mayonnaise and lettuce anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, people are shit at the grill. You have to be a grill master like me. I'm a good grill master.
See, yeah, I definitely I just feel like to grill, to get good at it, there's a lot of infrastructure. You gotta fire it up. There's a lot of I feel like you have to know.
Are you propane or charcoal?
We just have a charcoal grill.
Yeah, are you propane or conpane? I earned that one. I'll tell you what the trick is. Okay, this is just. I know we're going on this crazy tangent here. The Rear Admiral tangents does not disappoint. I'll tell you what the trick is with grilling. Kirk, are you a grill
no,
boy?
Not at all.
You don't grill at all?
I'm a slow cooker.
Here's the trick. The thicker the meat, the lower the heat. That's all it is. If you got a big, thick burger or a steak or drumsticks, every fucking idiot, when they try to cook drumsticks at a party, you go there and you bite into it and you're going to get blood in the center because they don't cook it right. It's low heat for the thicker meat.
So you don't burn the outside. And they'll burn the outside, they'll take it off, and
they'll
then
think
the
it's
inside's
done.
still rare.
Yeah, and the inside's just raw because you can singe the outside. You know, it's like getting your hand burnt.
For
just
how
because you
much-
burn your hand, you don't cook your
Like, for how many like crazy people are about meat? Like, I gotta fucking eat some meat, bro. Like, you have those dudes. It's like nobody knows how to fucking cook it correctly.
Yeah.
We overcook chicken. My God,
the time.
this country does not know how to do
not
chicken.
know.
You go to Cuba if you want your chicken done right.
But isn't poultry a little risky though with the foodborne illnesses?
Kind of, as long as you get it to 165, you're fine. Just people don't like nobody owns a food thermometer. Guys, you got me riled up. This is the shit I get riled up
Well,
about.
we'll talk a little bit more about food in a bit because I want to talk about food. It's always a fun
coming
topic.
up.
That is, Thanksgiving is coming up. But you know what else is coming up? The elections, which leads us to our debate this week, which is, how do we fix our political system? That's the debate this week, guys. It's a big topic. It's something we haven't really tackled on the show. We haven't had a lot of politics or a lot of political...
Well, it's like the first thing that just divides people and makes people angry. So we don't usually talk about like the specifics, but we're talking about the wider scope of it today.
Well, yeah. We're not picking like political parties here. I mean, you could if you think that's the way to fix our political system is to just say one side gets out.
Like we're talking about the infrastructure of politics.
Yes,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, normally we would introduce everyone's buzzers this week, but our soundboard is down. We just have this one for me, which means I will be buzzing the shit out of you guys.
Get some Apple products in here.
Yeah, it's not fucking it's not that, Kirk. All right.
Seems like it's kind of that, but
You know,
okay.
real thin ice with that promotion there, Kirk. We might have to demote you back down to just guest. But we should talk about the debate this week. Kirk, as our guest this week, I'm going to give you first stab at the debate. What do you think could fix our political system?
It's funny because someone sent me a chart the other day. It was a map of the United States, and it counted all the electoral votes in 2016 if you counted everyone that didn't vote, and it showed in a landslide that nobody would have won. There just wouldn't have been a president. And I think that's what we need. Like, if the nobody vote is the most popular vote, we should just not have a president.
Okay,
No, I'm joking. Okay. No, but seriously, we need...
But you're saying that the more people don't vote than did vote. So really,
The majority didn't vote.
majority rules had nothing to say.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
should just not have a president for 4 years.
I mean,
I'm joking. Okay, so 2 years ago, do you remember 2 years ago
we
when...
could try it for 6 months.
Very open-minded, Ron.
2 years ago, someone wrote into Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs. You guys know who Mike Rowe is?
Yeah.
Someone wrote into Mike Rowe asking Mike Rowe, hey, Mike Rowe, you have this huge audience, this devoted following, and you should encourage them to vote. You should encourage them to vote in 2016. Make sure your audience has their voice heard, and you should encourage them to participate in democracy. And I don't know if you guys saw Mike Rowe's response. It went a little viral, but he said, no, I'm not going to encourage my audience to vote. You know, this country is full of people who believe in shit like conspiracy theories. People think the earth is flat. The anti-vaxxer movement is getting big. And not on top of that, a lot of people don't understand history. They don't know anything about the Constitution. Why do I want these people being heard and represented why do I want these people choosing political leaders?
Oh my God.
But he went on to say, if anything, we should be encouraging people to read more, to educate themselves. He even pimped a book that I really like called Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt, which you can find for free. Google Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt.
You could probably find it for free at the library, too.
Yeah.
The shit
Wow.
tip. Veto that. I'm going to strike it. I'm going
Okay.
to edit that out of the episode. No free books at the library.
I mean,
Go
they're
fucking
they're
buy
all
your
free
books. Anyway, so the history of economics. Now, this is interesting. Did you have more to your point?
Oh
you wanted to
yeah,
add?
I have more to my point. My overall point is, there are a lot of good signs in the
Kirk,
culture.
do you have more to your point before I take a huge shit on it?
Yeah,
That's
I'm backed up here. I got to take a dump on your argument, Kirk.
We can talk all day about the infrastructure, about voting rights, how many representatives we should have in this branch of Congress. But really, politics is downstream from the culture, which is downstream from the prevalent ideas and attitudes within a society. And if you want to make politics better, you got to fix the culture, and you got to isolate the political ideas that are producing pieces of crap like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. See, I'm shitting on all sides of the political argument. You really got to change the culture and change the way people think. think if you want to make politics better, if you want a better government, you need to change the way people think. And Steven Pinker actually published a book a few months ago called Enlightenment Now, where he talks about. It's actually a pretty positive book. He talks about, despite all the gloom and doom that you hear from politicians and the media, a lot of things are better than ever. Violent crime is lower than ever. Poverty is lower than ever. We have all this amazing technology, and it's all a result of Enlightenment values, of reason, of science, of humanism. And he also points out that over the last few decades, I would say even longer, that these Enlightenment values have been under attack from organized religion, from the shit state of humanities in American academia, like postmodernism and existentialism and political correctness, and all of these anti-Enlightenment values that are undermining science and reason and reality. And I think that's what we really need to do. We need to encourage people to think for themselves, embrace reason. I mean, look at how many people just eat themselves into obesity. We're just talking about eating. People don't take care of themselves. They don't think long term. They don't really plan for retirement. They spend money they don't have. Look at all these people who borrowed hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college without thinking about what they want to do, what they want to be, what they want to study. But it's like, oh, just go get a college degree and it'll work out.
All right, Kirk.
My overall point is, if you have an irrational culture, you're going to get irrational politicians.
Okay, you had me for most of that, and then right at the end, you started walking on the thin edge of the plank there, and I was like, oh, he's wobbling, and then you fell off. Done. Okay.
I mean, do you disagree with anything he just said?
The thesis I agree with, which is you got to fix culture.
Yes.
And by the way, that who'd you quote?
Steven Pinker.
No, before the
Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe. So Mike Rowe's argument for not voting is just like I believe it's Socrates who made an anti-democracy argument, which changed my life. Like, it changed my mind. I actually don't think that democracy is necessarily always a good thing or the best system. And the reason is because Socrates said, look, if you're on a ship and you're going towards, a destination, you shouldn't consult the cooks and the guys, mopping the decks and the guys rowing the boat on which direction the boat should go in. It shouldn't be a democracy. You should leave it up to the captain and maybe his first mate to decide how to navigate the ship because they're learned men and they know what they're doing. But you shouldn't consult some idiot who has no fucking idea about navigation on where to steer the ship. And that's why he made the case that democracy is not always a good thing. And that sounds like Mike Rowe's argument.
You know how Socrates died, right?
Hemlock, right?
Well, the democracy voted him to death.
Yeah. Democracy, he wasn't wrong. Democracy was kind of this shit system that killed him.
I think democracy is a good defense mechanism. If you have irresponsible politicians and dictatorial leaders, then you can go vote them out and get better leaders in. I think that's to the extent which democracy is good.
You guys are talking about this in such a wonderfully large way. I'm going to talk about it in an actionable thing that we can do that will improve our political system today. And it is something that I think Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians will all be on board with. Okay? So here's an actual thing that we can do rather than talking about speaking these grandiose statements. No reporting of exit polls until the polls close.
Okay, well, Ron, I don't know if I did one of those or one of these.
So right now, they do exit polls and they report on them before the polls close. We have a country that's full of different time zones. So you will learn about the results in Pennsylvania and Florida before the polls close in California. That colors the outcome. Because if people think, oh, well, we already won, I don't have to go out and vote. They already, like, my candidate already won. It's stupid to report on the outcome of an election when the election hasn't even finished. So you can collect your exit poll data, you can do all that, but you can't report it on it until all the polls close in every 50 states. So and that's what it causes that's when they called Florida in a recent election between Bush and Gore, and then they reneged on it. We shouldn't just allow people to call states until the polls close.
Look, if people are going to be apathetic based on what they see on exit polls, then they deserve whatever government comes to them. And this gets back to my overall point. If people really want to prioritize politics and stand up for what they believe in, then they shouldn't be swayed by whether or not there's an exit poll reported on television.
People are swayed. So there's a whole argument of what should be or not should be. You shouldn't report on the election until it's done.
Okay, I'll tell you why I don't buy that. In theory, it sounds like
what could you possibly literally argue in favor of reporting on before it's done.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
What's the positive? What's the outcome?
Well,
What's
it's
the
not
benefit?
necessarily positive. I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Because let's say that they start polling that on the East Coast, right, that conservatives are really winning, right? So then that has the effect of conservatives all across the nation not going out to vote. So liberals will go out there and vote even harder, or vice versa. So if the liberals start saying, "Oh, liberals are winning in a landslide," that's going to embolden conservatives to go out and vote. So it's kind of going to be a wash, whether they report it or not. Don't you think?
No, that's exactly what I don't think. Literally everything I just said was the opposite of that.
Well, I think I'm right. So.
I have a bunch of ideas on how to fix things, but I'll tell you the thing that I think here's the biggest one.
Yeah.
This is the one, and this is the one that's not going to happen, but this is the one that pisses me off, is that when people, first of all, like what, 51% of America votes, maybe we're 50%?
I mean, that's in presidential elections. Usually in midterms. I know this midterms is expected a huge turnout.
But here's the problem, is that the problem with this is that the presidential winner will all of a sudden be like, oh, I won. Like, even if they win 51% of the people who voted, they treat that as some big fucking mandate. Like, America voted for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, first of all, no. A lot of people, they just vote for you because they hate both people.
Yeah.
But they hate you a little bit less.
A little bit less.
Woodrow Wilson thought the duty of the president was to enact the will of the people, the will of the populace. And the first election he won largely because Teddy Roosevelt jumped in and split the conservative vote, and Woodrow Wilson ended up winning in 1912.
That's why we need two things. One, in addition to having the candidates that you're going to vote for, you have to have the option to vote for no one. You have an option where you can exercise your right to vote, but you have a choice. They say, I'm not choosing any of these.
I mean, you can already do that.
Yeah.
You just go to the ballots and skip the Senate or the gubernational one and just vote on the proposals. But that's your way of saying.
If you had the ability to vote for no one, you would get more people out to vote.
Well, I mean, yeah, but what's the difference
what you
between
show
just not
is
voting?
that you have a choice that people who do want to vote, because they think, no, right now they chalk it up to apathy. And people are being apathetic. You're like, well, people just don't come out and vote. They just don't come out. No, they are coming out and voting. They're just not voting for anything that you're saying.
I think that the system that the voting system that seems to work in other countries is that you vote for all the candidates you want in office, and the one with the most number of votes just wins.
Ranked choice voting.
Yeah, ranked choice voting.
That is the fucking best system in the world, because it's ranked choice voting is when you're not only voting for the person you want, but you're basically voting for like a second and a third place too. And what that does is it has a nice calming effect on elections, because when you're going out campaigning for votes, you don't get pushed so much to the extreme, because you're still campaigning not just to get number one votes, but you still want to get that number two vote.
Yes.
And I think that actually is. I think people don't vote. Yes, part of it is apathy, but really, I think at its core, it's a design flaw in our voting system. And I actually think ranked choice voting is the one thing that can actually really fix that design flaw.
Would you say that's your number one suggestion for how to fix the political system?
Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Okay, ranked choice voting, and Kirk has fixed the culture. Now I got the answer. I think I got the answer.
We need a philosophical revolution, but go on. Yes.
Maybe. I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you what, just a fundamental switch that we could have in our culture, which is related to yours, but it's a tangible one, right? It's a very simple one.
All right. Yeah, I'm all about this tangible shit.
Yeah.
Come on.
Just get rid of labels. All political labels. We stop calling them, ourselves. First of all, we stop identifying, we stop registering as Republicans or Democrats, and we stop having candidates run under certain party platforms. By law, they cannot identify as a platform, as a party. That forces people to start listening to their actual positions and seeing if they agree with the values of the positions they're promoting.
It's like when people want to get rid of straight ticket voting. When people come in, instead of voting, like going through and actually doing the work, they're just like, just Republican or just Democrat.
There you go.
I mean, there's a lot to be said for that.
Well, I think this goes back to what I say. People don't really want to put much thought into politics, and they just want to go with whatever their tribe says, whether it's Democrat or Republican. Well, but speaking of, what's the state of today's politics? We just had Donald Trump come out as a nationalist. He's trying to push the Republican Party toward nationalism. Meanwhile, you have the Democrats moving towards socialism with Bernie and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. What really is the big difference between socialism and nationalism? They both say prioritize the collective over the individual, and that the individual should sacrifice their interests for the sake of the greater good, whether that be the nation or society or whatever the arbitrary group is.
That's actually a really cogent point. I think that's I hadn't really thought about that. But nationalism and communism or socialism. are very very similar. They're almost
Yeah.
like two sides of the same coin, if you think about it. Because, it is prioritizing the collective over the individual.
And you think like both the left and the right, I think, would agree on this. Like you always hear this concept: buy American, buy American. Why? So we could help stimulate the local economy. But why? So buy American. If I'm choosing between consoles like the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the Nintendo, I got to choose the Xbox. Why? So some programmer in Washington State can keep his job? Fuck him. I want to play Mario Kart.
Good point.
And
Kirk,
I'm glad that Kurt he's making like the points that other people would be afraid to make.
Yeah.
I ain't scared.
The bold Mario Kart argument. We got a super chat from Apostolos Constantino. He's for €2. Says Plato hated democracy. Try reading The Republic.
Yeah, okay.
He
like
did.
I can read.
But bringing it back, so
Wait, I want to comment on The Republic
Okay.
real quick because I was at a bookstore not too long ago, and every now and then I'll go into the humor section to see what books there are. By the way, humor is the smallest section of any bookstore.
You should check it out at the library. It's pretty big.
You know what fucking is it, and I will not. But humor is always. I remember I went to France a long time ago, and I met this guy, and I gave him a copy of one of my books, and he said, "Oh wow, it's really interesting to meet a humor writer because he said all the humor books in the world can be fit on one shelf." I'm like, what? How's that possible? Because you always think it's such a big genre. He's right. You go to a bookstore, it's really just like one big shelf of humor books, and then the rest are kind of like toilet books that that are also kind of lumped in with humor and like crossword puzzles and things like that. Like, oh my God, he's right. Humor, nobody writes humor. So I was looking for a funny book. The reason I mentioned this with regards to Plato's Republic is I went to the humor section and nothing was funny. I was just like picking these books up and kind of going through all the stuff and nothing was making me laugh. Then I picked up Plato's Republic, and it is so fucking funny.
Really?
Oh my gosh, Plato is so fucking clever in this. Like he's setting up jokes that he starts, and then 3 pages later you get the setup. Like the setup pays off. Like 3 pages later. Because he'll go in there, and he's so cleverly insulting the Republic. He's going in there and saying things like, I am so honored to be here today amongst such prestiged men. And then you think, wow, he's really flattering them. It's like, you guys are so wise. You always make good decisions. Clearly, the city's running very smoothly. I'm very proud to be in this republic. And no other sign of your intelligence than by taking counsel with me. And so you realize, like, he's just fucking with them. And that's why they fucking
trolling with them the whole time.
Yeah, he's just such an asshole to them. And he's so much more clever than they are. And it's so fucking funny because by the time you realize, like, oh, he's trolling them.
Well,
well, Plato, his whole philosophy laid the grounds for authoritarianism. That's what the Republic was. He thought that men were too evil or too stupid or too irresponsible to be trusted to live free, and they need to be ruled by philosopher kings.
Well, okay, then that kind of contradicts your assumption that we shouldn't have democracy.
No,
or democracy
we
is not
should have a
necessarily good thing.
constitutional republic based on individual rights where leaders are democratically elected as a defense mechanism against tyranny. So if there's a ruler that's becoming too tyrannical, we can just vote him out.
And we should use ranked choice voting
But
to do
yeah,
it.
democracy is not an ideal because what if 55% of the people decide that the First Amendment should be deleted from the Constitution?
Yeah.
What if 55% of the people want to bring back slavery?
Well,
Is
don't we
that
need
good?
a larger, like, to amend the Constitution? Isn't it something like crazy, like 80?
Yes.
It's like, and it has to be ratified in all 50 states.
Or apparently just executive order from Trump to just strike the 14th Amendment.
Yeah. It's just
Crazy.
such a
No, but going back to my point about that, the whole Buy American thing, you're seeing it manifest itself on the political stage when Donald Trump wants to impose tariffs to encourage people to buy American for the sake of preserving American jobs. Even though there's countless data, the history of economics says when you impose tariffs, it does the exact opposite of create and preserve domestic jobs. You're just making everything more expensive and hurting the economy. But Trump doesn't care, not to mention it contradicts his whole stance that tax cuts are good for the economy because tariffs are an extra tax, but he doesn't care because he's not thinking, and that's what you get when you have an irrational culture.
We have like you touched on this before. We have a very short-term outlook on life. Our whole culture, it's very instant gratification, and we don't invest in ourselves, in our country. Like, we don't want to put a tax to fix our roads now because it costs money. Like, it's always like, if you do the things now, it pays off later, and we're not good at that. We're totally not good at that. We don't know how to invest in ourselves and in our country to pay it off down the road.
People are very short-sighted.
And our leaders are very short-sighted because part of it's because they have to preserve their jobs, and it's difficult to have a long-term payoff when if I don't see results in 4 years or however long your term is, I'm going to vote you out.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to have that long-term outlook.
Well, so I have another suggestion for how to fix our political system. So the first one is getting rid of labels, because everyone identifies as like a sports
I kind of like that one.
It's
getting
rid of
like
labels.
It encourages people. I mean, I don't know if I'd agree with this, but yeah, the labels and the parties, it encourages people to not think and just blindly go along.
Right, but I feel like it's almost impossible. You get rid of labels, and I feel like people will coalesce around a label. Like, it's just natural for people to gravitate towards ideas that they like.
Okay, if that's the case, and that may be the case, I have another suggestion. Okay, so whatever the popular parties are in the country, by say, you have at least a 10% margin. By law, they should have every branch of government have a certain number of people representing that party, so that we no longer have to dump money into pushing a political candidate or political ideology to be represented, because in the legislative, well, this only works in legislative and judicial, it can't be executive, obviously, but it can to an extent, because the cabinet members...
Wait, what are you saying?
So here, let's say right now, just for the sake of argument, America is split into 50% conservative, 50% liberal. So you say by law, Senate has to be 50-50 for conservatives and liberal. The judicial has to be 50-50 conservative judges and liberal judges, and the president's cabinet, the executive cabinet, has to be 50-50 liberals and conservatives.
Well, why do we have this false dichotomy of only two choices? What if both liberals and conservatives are bad?
Well, that's what I said. Like you have every political party that has more than a 10%.
So what, do they take a test to find out if you're conservative or liberal?
Well, then they would identify as conservative.
Isn't just voting? Isn't this why we have voting? Doesn't voting do this?
No, because what's happening, and here's the problem with our current voting system, and this is why everything's kind of fucked right now. Gerrymandering, and they're doing things like putting their thumbs on the scale. The Electoral College is fucking with our voting as well. The Electoral College is just there, and it's never going to go away, because it's there just to give smaller states bigger power. If the Electoral College was necessary, no one can defeat this argument. If the Electoral College was necessary for presidential elections, then why don't we have Electoral Colleges for governor elections or Senate elections or any other type of election? It's bullshit. We don't need it. It's an archaic thing.
The presidency is the one thing that the entire country has to vote on. When you're voting for Congress, you're just voting for your particular district. And when you're voting for Senate, you're actually not supposed to vote for Senate. You know the 17th Amendment changed all that, right?
No.
It used to be that the state legislatures chose the senators, because the senators were meant to represent the states, whereas the Congress people were meant to represent the people. And so it was kind of that dual balance where people would have to be more engaged in their state governments so that they would elect senators, and the senators were supposed to represent the states, not the people.
I think if you win the popular vote, you should just get 5 bonus electoral votes. It's like an achievement unlocked thing.
There you go. That's
and
not a
then
bad
you just
idea.
get 5 bonus. So that way, because then we don't got to deal with this whole bullshit. But you get the popular vote, you get a little bonus.
Well, so you get all these sour grapes from all across America where they're like, oh, the big states, the liberal elites in the coast get all the votes. Well, they fucking should. California alone is the 5th largest economy in the world. Maybe they should have more of a say on steering our national elections.
I thought we were the 7th.
Maybe now it's like 7th.
And it would be number 1 if we didn't have high taxes and regulations. But
let's go. Hold on, Kirk. I'm super critical of people being critical of how California governs itself, because they're doing something right.
California also has the highest poverty and highest homeless rates. Explain that.
Because the weather's nice.
Yeah, we're number 1 in everything.
Because the fucking weather's nice. Yeah, of course, you're going to get more homeless people sleeping on benches here than fucking the Rockies, where it's like just snowy and fucking just ice shards going up your ass. Yeah, sorry, we have beaches and people. It's so pleasant in Santa Monica that homeless people don't want to leave. Sorry.
Yeah, and a big reason for that is because new housing isn't being built as fast, because 40% of building a new house in California requires the 40% of the cost is jumping through regulatory hoops.
Well, that may
and
be
even
the case,
left-leaning publications like Huffington Post and others have reported on this.
I mean, that's what Prop 10's about, right?
Yeah, Prop 10. So there's a proposition in California. This is kind of interesting for those who are not following us nationally or
rent
internationally.
Control. It's not about lifting regulations.
Well, let me explain it too for those who don't know. It is about preventing them landlords from raising your rent, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And so, are you in favor of that or against?
It's a clear violation of property rights. I'm against rent control.
Against rent? That's
yes.
interesting. Okay, so but
I think the solution is build more housing.
Yeah, but they do, and they just jack up the prices.
They don't build enough of it.
Yes,
no, there's so many fucking condos in downtown LA, and the only people buying them are Chinese investors who don't live in them. They're not building enough housing for like middle class normal people. They're only building housing that they can make money on, which is these high end fucking condos.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the state of California is passing these regulations requiring new housing be built with solar panels. That's not lowering the cost of building new housing.
Yes, it does lower the cost.
How?
In 20 fucking years, it lowers the cost over
20
the
years.
lifetime.
We need new housing now.
No, having
the people
solar
who can't
panels,
afford housing can't wait 20 fucking years.
Yeah, first of all, if you buy a house, you're going to be living in it a long time, and it lowers the cost over the long period. It goes again to the short-sighted, long-sighted thinking. If you have a long-sighted view, it is actually very much cheaper.
So if I want to build a new house right now, if I want to build a new neighborhood, I have to spend an extra $50,000 just to put solar panels on that people lower class, middle class people aren't as able to afford.
But the thing is, you have a lot of Americans buying houses that are way too big for them. We have a society that's built on overconsumption.
Right.
And the mortgages, they're biting off way more than they can chew. And I always say this, and it always riles people up, but it's like, yeah, I think we should be consuming less, and I think it would make us happier. So yeah, I do think that I totally agree with that solar panel law because it takes a lot of the pressure off our
even if it raises the cost of building new housing.
Absolutely, because it lowers the cost.
This is why we have a homeless problem.
It raises the cost. No, yeah. Oh, the homeless people. That guy was going to buy a house, but then he couldn't put solar panels on it. So
yeah, and now there's a shortage of housing, and rents are going up.
There's no shortage of housing. There's no shortage
of
housing.
Oh my God! Yes, there is.
There is a shortage of housing. It's just there's a shortage of the right kind of housing. You do have housing available, but you don't have housing for lower income and middle class. Partially because we're letting people build whatever the fuck they want to build, and because they can't make as much money on the middle class housing as they can on building condos and selling to international investors.
Well, okay, that's a good point, Kirk. What do you say about that? Because they are making housing, but they're for high end.
No, I do agree that there are market forces that drive up the cost of housing because there's a lot of demand from foreign investors, from foreign billionaires who want to live in nice high-rise condos in LA. But at the same time, there's no new housing being built for lower and middle class people because it's so expensive because of regulatory burdens.
I mean, I don't disagree that the regulation in California is. I mean, I used to work for a small business, and so much of my job was dealing with red tape from even the city of LA, and it was crazy.
And this isn't really a state thing. It's usually, it's exclusive to Orange County, San Diego County, LA County. This is becoming even a bigger issue in the Bay Area and I think a lot of it is because all the Silicon money is coming in, but no new housing is being built for the people who need to move out.
Yeah. I mean, we do have but what's happening is that we're having cities now where there is no place for lower class, middle class. It's always just going to be like you have like downtown LA that's just completely turning from being like a city full of different kinds of people to being a city full of a very specific kind of person and income level.
That's a good point. And also, I would say this, with the housing market that's being built, right? If they continue to build high-end property for people who can afford those like really high-end,
why not build both? Estate. Why not build housing?
Because they're greedy. They want more money. Why would they make? Well, Kirk, come on, be honest. If you had the choice to make $100,000 or $1 million,
I choose $1 million.
Why not both?
Well, because they're not. But they're not. They're always going for the bigger markets and trying to make more money, aren't they?
Well, yeah, because there's no profit motive when 40% of the cost of building a new house is jumping through regular. Okay, we need to get back to the overall point.
We need the buzzer. The point is that I think that there should be no audiences in TV debates.
Well, no more Ken Bones.
That is, I'm always about having ideas that make things a little bit better. And you know what would make the whole system a little bit better is if when we had our television debates, there was no fucking audience in the room, because that colors the response of the people watching at home. And I don't know who the fuck is in that audience. I don't know if that's a correct sampling of America. It should just be the moderator and the two people running for president, or the multiple people running for president.
Okay, I want to ask you, like, if you have, you're worried about them coloring the vote, but it could color the vote for or against either party, right?
Yes, but you end up having, instead of responding to actual issues, you end up people are encouraged to have these like kind of zinger lines.
Yeah.
Then that's what the headline is about. So it's not about the ideas. It's not about dealing with problems. It's all about how it's like, oh, and then she said, it's like it's all about fucking nothing. It's about a good zinger, and that's what the whole reporting is about. It's about fucking stupidness. It's about dumb. It's about It's about,
but
it's nothing.
But I mean, how do you legislate that? Are you literally just saying you cannot report on the numbers?
No. I'm just saying that when CNN has their big presidential debate, there's no audience. The audience is at home watching it. They're not in the room.
Oh, I see. Well, they do tell the audience not to cheer.
But they fucking do.
Yeah,
they fucking do. And it colors everything. Because if you just have it be on ideas, so you can't go after those big laugh lines. And then it's like, oh, shit, she just owned him. It's like, this is it's supposed to be a debate about ideas and issues, not a fucking your mama joke contest.
We're rocketing face first into idiocracy here.
Well, I want to bring it back to philosophy. So Plato was brought up. That's how we got America. It wasn't because of Plato. It's because of the rebirth of Aristotle and the Renaissance and the thinkers during the Enlightenment, like John Locke, Thomas Paine, Adam Smith, Francis Bacon, that built on the Aristotelian foundation that was pro-reason, pro-this reality, this one reality, the scientific method, Isaac Newton, the rebirth of science, the moving away of religion. That's what really inspired and influenced the founding fathers, and that's how we got the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. What happened after that was, it started with Immanuel Kant in Germany, was he started an anti-enlightenment movement in Germany where he wanted to destroy reason to preserve faith so that he could save religion, because he noticed that the Enlightenment was causing people to abandon religion. It wasn't like overnight. It was a slow turn. And people built on Immanuel Kant's attacks on reason, on his crappy epistemology, on his anti-happiness, pro-duty to some whatever epistemology, which is what inspired people like George Hegel and Karl Marx and Nietzsche. And what did we get in Germany and Europe as a result of this anti-Enlightenment German philosophy in the 19th century?
Okay.
We got 2 world wars. We got concentration camps. We got communism. We got Nazism.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Jordan Peterson.
We were
This is Jordan Peterson. Oh, do not insult me by calling me Jordan Peterson. Fuck you.
This is what happens. Every time
Jordan Peterson.
Every time I watch it, well, I'm not saying in philosophy, but in the way that I agree with like 2/3 of what Jordan Peterson says, and then right at the end, he fucking takes off the runway. It's like, oh my God, why are you saying this, Jordan? Stop it. Here's what's going on, Kirk. Here, look, you make so much sense, and you're so good with what you're saying, and I'm like totally on board with it.
Very emphatic speaker. I like it.
Up until you just take that same concept and you take that same concept and then you extrapolate it to address something that's way more complex than just one philosophy. Like, for example, the World War I and World War II. World War I and World War II had so many
Germany
things going
was
on.
ripe for an authoritarian dictator to take over because their culture was essentially taught over a century that reason, that exploring reality is impossible, knowing reality is impossible. What's true for you might not be true for me. You should just embrace your emotions and serve whatever collective, whether it be the proletariat with Marx or duty with Hegel, and it manifested itself in the form of the Nazis. But it doesn't matter, because even if you go back in time and kill baby Hitler, some dictator would have taken over Germany anyway. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with the philosophy of the time. It had more.
Yes, it did.
Okay, it maybe a little bit, but it had way more to do with the fact that they were a beaten and defeated people who were feeling bad about themselves because everybody was shitting on them after World War I. And so Hitler came along and gave them hope, and they said, "You know what, guys? Yeah, we were defeated, but it wasn't our fault. You know whose fault it was?
Always someone else's fault.
It was the Juden." And then that's when he used that as a convenient tool to try to push his agenda into the public, and the German people were very ripe for being manipulated like that.
Yeah, that's a classical tactic. It's always someone else's fault. With Trump, it's the immigrants and the globalists. With Bernie Sanders, it's the 1% of the corporations. It's always someone else. It's never your fault.
The point is, we should not have voting on Tuesdays, but we should have voting on Sundays. Voting should be on a weekend. I am reversing the tangent to be tangent back on track.
There we go. Okay, Ron.
So, but right now in America... So we need more enlightenment, but right now the dominant thought in America is we have the anti-enlightenment, which was imported to the United States because during the 19th century, America's secondary education system was lagging. So a lot of American students and intellectuals went over to Germany and Europe to study abroad, and they brought all the Kantian, Hegelian, Marxist nonsense, and it's been manifesting itself in American universities ever since, in the form of postmodernism, existentialism, blah, 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 blah. blah, blah, blah. But what's the alternative? The alternative we're presented from the conservatives, from the right wing, is usually pre-Enlightenment. And you see this with these Daily Wire conservatives and Dennis Prager. Michael Knowles of Daily Wire did a speech back in March at Ithaca saying the way we make America great again is we go back to church. We go back to church and we embrace faith and we take religion more seriously. We need that old-time religion. That's what the conservatives are offering. It's the anti-Enlightenment versus the pre-Enlightenment. I'm saying if we want to fix politics, if we want a better government, we need more Enlightenment values of reason, science, and individualism.
Okay, well, every time I hear that...
That's how you get freedom.
I know, but every time I hear that from people who are like, oh, we need more Enlightenment values, which is, supposedly pushing science and reason... There are people who don't like to study science or reason.
You don't have to be a scientist. You just have to be pro-reason. You have to be open to thinking.
I honestly think that's kind of a big ask right now. Like asking people to be open to
you're
reason.
Not going to get it. And I want to be clear. I don't think this should come from the top down. I want Donald Trump trying to impose Enlightenment ideals on the culture, mainly because I don't think he understands it.
How is this like? I mean, nobody's going to disagree with people saying, I think we want people to be more reasonable. Like that is a very, everybody can agree with that. But how is that actually done?
You have to just speak up. You have to speak up you have to know what you're fighting for. You have to know what you stand for, and you have to be able to expose and shit on ideas you agree with, while also offering a better alternative.
Okay,
and again, voting on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, here, let me ask you this, Kirk, because I think that this is something that we'll probably disagree on.
We could also do Saturday.
What, voting on
Saturday or Sunday?
How about Christmas?
To get more people to vote?
Everyone has Christmas off. Let's all vote on Christmas.
I just think it's a lot easier to do shit on a Saturday or Sunday than it is on a Tuesday. You know?
Hold on, real quick. We got a super chat from Clifton Taylor. Says, F affordable living. Have any of you been to the projects? Okay.
Yes, I am from Detroit. I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, but I've driven around the projects.
Yeah. Fuck you if you grew up in Grosse Pointe Blank, because that's a suburb of
Royal
Detroit.
Oak represent.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing I want to say. We didn't really entertain this idea too much that we are doing that we have representation in every branch of government. What do you think about that? Because if you have this problem of labels where people are just going to go with their sports team, essentially, that's what
good is representation if people are voting in communism or theocracy or Sharia law or white nationalists?
Yeah, then I guess if you have a 10%, yeah, okay, that is a problem. Oh, look, I just realized, yeah, you make a good point. That is a problem. But here's what I was going to propose to you.
I do love when Maddox acquiesces to a point.
I thought about that.
It's just the best, the moment.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is a problem. Well, let me ask you this though, Kirk. Are you in favor of standardized education, like a national education standard? Okay, that's where. Then how do you push these Enlightenment ideas?
Again, I don't think it should come from the government. I think it needs to come from people like us who need to push good ideas. I don't think it can come from the government. Ayn Rand wrote about this in her book, Philosophy Who Needs It, when someone asked her, what can you do to change the culture? And she's like, look, this isn't going to happen overnight. Even if you have a good army of intellectual crusaders, it's going to take a lot of work. And it just requires you standing up for what you believe in and taking whatever audience is available to you, whether it's YouTube, whether it's writing a letter to the editor, whether it's just talking to friends and they say something you disagree with. And even if you just say, hey, I don't agree with that, maybe they'll undercut their confidence to spout that nonsense next time, but you might not change their mind altogether.
I mean, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but it's also so the answer is just to kind of speak up.
Yeah. How do you think you change people's minds to vote in elections? Do you think people are just automatons?
No, you got it. Like, you are taking for granted that thought is automatic, right? It's a choice. We should just choose to think, but it's not that simple. No, it's not that simple. You have to be taught how to think.
Yes.
You have to be taught critical thinking. Critical thinking is not automatic. I didn't know how to do critical thinking until I went to college, and I took a class, and my professor said, he explained what critical thinking was, which is you're always asking questions and don't take things for granted and ask for evidence and look for things that support, and then be critical of the information that people are telling you, even me as I'm telling it to you. And that's something that was taught to me, and it's not something that just people are going to pick up and then suddenly the Enlightenment happens. It's something that you have to teach.
I think you have to push these ideas. You're absolutely right. It's not automatic, and people have to be encouraged to think. And I think a lot of people just let life happen to them. They say, well, everything happens for a reason, and my thoughts are determined by the cosmos, like some astrological bullshit, or it's determined by my genes or my socioeconomic class. People, no, you're right. People need to be encouraged to think, but I don't think that's going to change by, changing the voting districts here.
No, the way you change people to think is you just do simple. Everybody takes an introduction to logic and reasoning class where you learn the basic fallacies and you learn the basics of debate.
Yeah.
And you can actually, it was one of the best classes I ever took in college, where it taught you to look at advertisements, and it's like, what is the fallacy they're committing in this advertisement? And it taught me to look through things through a critical eye, be like, oh yeah, I guess that is kind of bullshit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's like, I did not have a vocabulary for any of those things. It gave me the ability to call bullshit on something.
So Kirk, for democracy to work, you have to have an educated populace. If you are not educated, you are not free, because you can't even vote for things that unless you know what you're voting for. You can't vote for things that affect your local politics and the fishing hatcheries and hunting rights and oil and drilling and all these things that learned men and women have to understand before they can make any kind of meaningful impact on the decision making in this country.
But educated how? Like, what if they're educated in 9/11 conspiracy theories?
Well, that's why we have a federal standard. And that's why it's important to have a federal standard, because otherwise parents can and will teach them chemtrails and creationism and all this nonsense. That's why you force kids to go to...
What if the federal standard is the wrong standard?
Well, that's why you hope as a nation...
I mean, you hope. It's not really thinking.
Look, okay, Kirk, it might be an 85% chance that you're going to get the right standard in federal government, but it's much higher than fucking private. Guarantee that.
I think it's better than... I mean... I think there's a lot of problems with both public and private education that I don't really want to care to get into right now. But no, I think I don't think it's the federal government's responsibility. As James Madison pointed out in Federalist 45, the chief role of the federal government is for national defense and foreign trade and making sure trade runs smoothly between the states. Everything else is supposed to be left to the states and the cities and the people.
No, okay.
It always comes down to a libertarian.
But
thing.
there's
I am not a
always
libertarian.
comes down to a libertarianism.
Okay.
Do not insult me.
But let me ask you this: like, why should it come down to the state level? Why is the state considered small enough to be self-regulating? Because you can always say, well, it shouldn't come down to the state level. It should come down to the county level.
Why is the state level okay? Why is it the state the magical thing that's okay for everything?
Right. Why
but it's not the nation, it's not the county, but the state's okay.
Yeah. Madison and Hamilton pointed this out, that the reason why you want a federalist system, because if a state does something bad, then it will be isolated in that state. Whereas if a state does something good, other states are likely to follow.
But they also came up with that when we weren't so fucking connected. We had like one road between states.
Yeah, things have changed, man.
Listen,
we got the internet.
Do you have
question.
anything? I mean, you're just kind of insulting them. You're not arguing with the idea. What do you think about that idea of federalism? It's like, if New York does something right, then other states will follow. If New York fucks up, then other states will learn from that mistake.
That's not true. And by the way, it's not about right or wrong. It's about what states need. So legislation that California passes that makes sense here doesn't fucking make sense in Utah or Montana.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, so it's not about like setting examples, but there should be like some national standards. I think that regulation should happen in the following way: when you need it. That's it. Nobody passes regulation for fun. If you have bonfires on the beach and it's not causing any problems, no one passes regulation. But the second a house catches on fire, they're like, all right, no more of this.
I mean, I think a lot of politicians like passing stuff just to say they got stuff done. You hear Trump say this a lot. That's how he criticizes Elizabeth Warren. She never gets anything done. It's like, well, good. I don't want her to get anything done.
We got a super chat from Apostolos Constantino for €2. Says critical thinking in 2 words: question everything. I would agree with that.
I want to ask you guys a question.
Yeah.
What do you think about people? I'm not.
What were you going to say?
I'm sorry. I had a mental image. What do you think about the dude who, when we talk about this type of stuff, when we talk about trying to fix our democracy, actually having a debate of ideas,
right?
And then you have the dipshit who's like, voting doesn't matter. What do you say to that guy?
Fuck you. I don't give a shit. If you think voting doesn't matter, your words don't matter. I don't need to hear whatever you have to say. Your opinion on politics starts and stops when you think that voting doesn't matter. Don't care.
I'd ask what he's offering. Again, I think it's more about ideas and philosophy. And it's like, what do you think that I would just try to have a conversation with him?
Yeah, I just get so annoyed when you have people on Facebook who this guy comes into the comment because he took one like fucking political science 101 course and just tries to blow our fucking minds
open.
open.
One Ron Paul speech on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all fucking bullshit. And it's just like, oh, cool. So you fixed nothing. Like, and it's like, I realize the system has its faults and is shitty, but that, like, to me, like, something shitty doesn't mean you get to be shitty. You know, like, you don't get to be shitty because something's shitty. Like, you still have to have principles. And, like, if every fucking 18-year-old voted in this midterm elections, I bet you the next election cycle, they'd be talking a lot more about student loan debt and the student loan industry. You know, it's like they tailor their message to the people who are a part of the fucking process.
I'll tell you the thing I'm tired of is when you have these, I just tweeted about this too, when you have all these like guys on the internet, guys and girls who have just like stinky underwear, and they come out there and be like, well, you could say what you want, and I may disagree with it, but I'll defend your right to say it. I'm so clever. I'm a real warrior of free speech. You guys are such fucking morons. And they don't even know who said that. It's a woman who said that, by the way. They don't know.
It doesn't matter then.
Well, yeah, but they don't know who said it. They don't know where it comes from, and they think they're being so fucking novel. Like, like they're in their fucking lab stewing over their keyboards all fucking night, and they come up with this, bing, here's an idea. I'm gonna go to Twitter with it. You're not novel, dipshit. This is like centuries old. And by the way, you know who the first person to criticize people who criticize the rights to defend is the military. When people burn flags, you know, we get this argument here. This like, oh, it's the left leads to censorship. It's like, motherfuckers, they're both leading to censorship. Yes. The left and the right. Because on the left, you get like the PC culture. You get, oh, don't say things that offend me. Don't say things that are too hurtful. Don't say things that, you know, that we disagree with. And on the right, it's like, well, you can't fucking burn the flag. Don't you dare fucking kneel at an NFL game. Don't you dare insult our military. Don't insult our president. And by the way, let's also ban certain religions we don't like from our country. Like, they both fucking lead to censorship. It drives me nuts. These idiots.
You get a real good fucking point. It's like it goes like to the budget, like where the right is like, oh, we don't need to spend money on that. Oh, but we can spend money on the military. Or it's like they both have their own pet projects.
Yeah,
and it's like you're both talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah, conservative. I grew up in Utah, very conservative, and they're all about like, oh, let's reduce government, reduce regulation, except when it comes to marijuana, except when it comes to abortion.
When it comes to like, it's just about the shit you care about.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Like it's not an overall principle. It's just about very specific issues that you care about.
And they're left and the right both do it.
Conservatives love freedom until someone does something they don't like.
Amen.
Bam.
You know what? And I would extend that to both sides, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like it's not a principle when it doesn't go over everything. It just goes over the very small like sliver of life.
From what I can see in today's political climate, the left ultimately thinks people are motivated and driven by money and profit motive, and that's why they want to control the money with socialism. The right recognizes that people are motivated by ideas, and that's why they're encouraging people to go back to church. This is why they hate the media. This is why they're constantly whining and crying about what people are saying on Twitter and why they want to regulate social media.
I always view it as the left wants corporations and business to be responsible, and the right wants the individual to be responsible.
Well, the individual should be responsible, but yeah, a corporation is just a collection of individuals that are seeking a profit motive.
Well, okay, so that's why I kind of have this problem with like people who have a problem with government regulation, but they don't have a problem with corporate regulation. I'll tell you what, I think that there's certain sectors of our economy that absolutely should be government. They should be turned to the government. Like, for example, the credit agencies. They're doing a terrible job. Every few months they get hacked, and then each one you have to contact like 3 different companies to get your credit reports fixed, and there's no standard. Those are things that actually I think should be government functions.
Also, kind of shitty. You know what I hate about that is, and until very recently, you had to, if you wanted to put a credit freeze on your file, you had to pay $10. Until very recently, the law was passed where you no longer have to do that. That was pissed me off because I'm like, so you're making money off my personal data, and I have absolutely no choice.
Yeah,
in this
you
matter.
have no choice.
No choice whatsoever, whether I want a credit score or not.
Yeah.
I get
one.
You
get one. And by the way, who decides, like, there's no way to regulate, like, who decides what their metrics are for adjusting your credit? What if I pay my bills on time every other month? And is that going to affect my credit rating the same way? It's like, nope, just a bunch of arbitrary dudes sitting around like, this is what we decided, tough shit.
It is kind of, they're starting to do, so they don't have, like, credit scores in China? like as much, but they're doing those social currency scores now.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we need to bring to America.
Dude, it's fucking coming whether we want it or not.
Yeah.
But dude, people are getting like it is a credit score for, imagine a credit score but for your life. And like if you get caught, you know, your dog shits on the park and you don't pick it up. And like they have this whole system where people are like reporting on one another. It's like that fucking Black Mirror episode, man.
It's like the
fucking
Black Mirror
crazy.
Episode. It is the threat that your teachers gave you when you were a kid about your permanent record, but coming to life.
And also, but it wasn't. It does it in a weird way. It like. I was listening to a podcast about it, and they had a good point. They're like, it almost not criminalizes, but it makes for a fake authenticity because everybody is kind of being happy all the time to try and so it's like the idea of sadness is like kind of bad. Like you can't be grumpy.
Oh,
almost.
you can't be. Oh, he's too negative. Let's
and so we end up kind of tamping down that emotion, which guess what is not healthy.
Yeah.
We did a whole documentary about this. It was called Inside Out. I mean, we know what that's about.
What's it? There's a documentary about this?
Yeah, it's by Pixar. It's excellent.
Is this? I don't know. I don't get the joke.
Inside Out, the animated movie.
Never saw it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I haven't seen it either.
Just sometimes,
Good movie.
you know, not everything is like Fortnite and a Halloween marathon, okay? There are other movies out there.
Yeah, Godzilla movies.
Do you have
Kung
like
Fu
nieces
movies.
or nephews?
Yes, I do. I have nieces and nephews, yeah.
Dude, watch a movie with them. They're fun.
Well, they're all about my age, so
Okay.
I'll watch a movie with them. Look, I lately, I'll tell you what I've been watching. A lot of Kung Fu.
Hey, you know what? Kung Fu movies are fucking great.
Yeah, Kung Fu movies are great. They're so. It's almost.
They're super fun.
It puts you in a meditative state when you listen to them too, because the Kung Fu. First of all, the Kung Fu movies are almost all ridiculous.
Do they make you want to do push-ups?
Yes,
Dude, every time I watch
Right?
a Kung Fu movie,
Yeah.
I start busting out push-ups.
That's a great way to relieve anger and stress. Just do a bunch of push-ups until you're not angry anymore, and then you get more ripped in.
Well, I got another great way to relieve pressure and stress. You vape. Guys, today's episode is brought to you by eliquid.com. For 20% off your first purchase, visit eliquid.com/madcast and use the promo code madcast during checkout. Guys, eLiquid has over 44,000 items in stock delivered right to your door. Now, last time we had, I believe it was Blair White on when we had eLiquid, and we talked about how that sounds like a lot of items, but it's not. It's just the right amount. I actually checked out the website. I really like their tracker on this website. This is really cool, where you can turn on notifications in your browser, and it will tell you every step of the way when your package is about
It's like
to go
the
out.
Domino's Pizza Tracker.
It's like the Domino's Pizza Tracker,
But for vapes.
But for vapes and vape accessories.
Carlos is packing your vape right now.
Yeah. You know, Ron. So we talk about this from time to time on the podcast. You're a do-it-yourself kind of guy, right?
I mean, yeah, that's who I am at my core.
So it's so cool because this website has so many different kits and accessories that you can essentially like make whatever you want. I just found this out too.
Can I build a tiny house but made out of vape? The chimney would just be one giant vape.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing! Why hasn't
Oh
anyone
my God, vape house.
They need to make a gingerbread vape, like a gingerbread vape house, right?
That'd be awesome.
Wouldn't that be awesome? And the chimney is like where you kind of blow in, and the vape comes out.
You like
the,
blow through a giant candy cane.
Yeah.
And it goes out the chimney,
That'd be so cool.
and it's all gumdrop flavored,
You can, yeah,
which I'm
you can
sure is one of the flavors.
of course,
Just
'cause
in
you
time
got-
for Christmas.
Just in time for Christmas and the holidays, Thanksgiving. Oh man, I wonder if they have a turkey flavored vape oil.
44,000 items. I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of something along those. So there's got to be some savory vape flavors.
There's got to be, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'd be into it.
Yeah, I mean, do they have like a gravy?
You know,
Check it out, bone broth vape.
bone broth. You know what? You can make your own vape flavors. I just found out that they have these vape conferences where people go and they kind of it's an industry thing, right? Where people meet together and they talk about their different for the different flavors and different.
What is? I want. You know how you have sommeliers for wine tasting?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if there's like a vape AA or like is there like
is.
someone who's like, oh, I'm detecting a little bit of a cinnamon.
There is.
Is that ginger?
We had this guy on our podcast a long time ago.
Hints of chocolate.
Blake Vapes. You know Blake Vapes?
Oh, he's great.
Oh, dude, I love
Yeah.
Blake Vapes.
Oh, you know Blake Vapes?
Oh, I know Blake. Yeah, he's great.
He's a great dude. He was on this podcast, and we tried to do the debate of whether or not iPhones are garbage. And his attitude was like, so I was coming down really hard on the iPhone, and his attitude was so positive. He was like, "Yeah, but they're cool, man." And I was like, "Well, how do I?"
Was he the Blake Vape like guy,
Yeah.
like the character, like the whole time?
Yeah, it was
Oh
great.
my God.
It was
Yeah.
a classic episode.
Yeah, it was a classic episode. Anyway, guys, free shipping, No minimum order for that free shipping too, which is fantastic. A lot of places, they try to do the free shipping, but you got to buy $100. Not at eliquid.com.
That always pisses me off when you drop like $150.
Yeah,
and everything always prices out to like $148.
Yeah,
I fucking hate that.
Yeah,
and then you gotta like buy some bullshit you don't need because it's actually cheaper to do it with the free. I fucking hate that.
and it's always like priced so that like the cheapest item is still like $10.
Yep.
Not at eliquid.com, guys. Madcast listeners get 20% off your first purchase. Visit eliquid.com/madcast and use the promo code MADCAST during checkout. We really appreciate it, guys. Let us know what you think. Send us pictures of your stuff too. Send us pictures of your big fat vapes.
Oh man, I want to see your big fat vape.
Your big fat vape clouds.
Yeah,
I'm into it. Yeah, anyway, thanks again to eliquid.com, and thank you all for supporting us. Well, anyway, guys, we should have a wrap-up of our debate. Kirk, any final words on our political system?
Look, I want to be clear. So my ideas should not be imposed by the government, first off. And secondly, not everyone needs to be a scientist. Not everyone needs to pick up Atlas Shrugged or Adam Smith. But the ideas of the Enlightenment, of taking care of yourself, individualism, reason, thinking for yourself, those need to be prevalent in the culture. And the more those are prevalent, the more freedom we're going to get, the more people are going to mind their own damn business.
But we shouldn't force people to learn those Enlightenment values.
No, we should not force them. We should encourage it.
Well, but how do you encourage them to do that?
Are we doing a wrap up of the debate? We're going back into the debate.
Okay, all right, fair enough. That's your final. What do you got, Ron?
I would say ranked choice voting is a design fix that I think could help fix our election process.
Ranked choice voting.
Yes.
Okay, that's not
really
bad.
Not just choosing the one winner, but you're choosing the second winner, the third winner. Right. It encourages politicians to campaign not just for a vote, but for all the votes. And I think it would stop pushing people to the extremes.
I think that that's good. And my suggestion is no more labels. When I register to vote, my party is unaffiliated, and I usually vote independent. But even then, I don't even want to identify with independent because occasionally independents get like kind of a shithead candidate, like a green, some weird Green Party dude or something like that.
Stein,
yeah,
Kerry Johnson.
When you are unidentified, I feel like I have no horse in this race. I don't identify with the left. I don't identify with the right. And I know it's like centrist has become this like dirty word on the internet now. That when I take tests, that's where it pegs me, right?
Yeah.
But. And that's not because I don't have strong opinions on things. It's because when you evaluate on a political spectrum, you assign a point value to certain beliefs. Like, for example, I am very, pro-choice and in favor of Planned Parenthood and organizations like that. But I'm also not a gun abolitionist. So those kind of cancel each other out. It's a very liberal value and a very conservative value. But on a political spectrum, it's a wash. And that's where like centrism comes from on a political scale. But it doesn't mean you don't have strong opinions. But when you actually start thinking about the values that the politicians are promoting, that's when it lets you break free from this sports team mentality that we have. Anyway, that's my suggestion. Don't forget to vote, guys. Madcastmedia.com. That's also the voicemail number is on the bottom of every single page. If you click on the best debate, click on the voicemail number. You'll be able to leave us a voicemail. But we should get to the Ron Babcock tip. Ron, what do you got for us this week?
All right. Last week, we talked about tracking spending, and how important it was to know what money you have coming in, what money you have going out.
That's
because
right.
It knows that if you measure something, you care about it. Now, I want to read to you just a quote that I was reading an article that I thought was interesting out of the Washington Post in 2016. It says that about 46% of Americans said they did not have enough money to cover a $400 emergency expense. So if you had let's say your fucking brakes went out, you needed $400. Can you handle that? So my tip this month is you have to develop an emergency savings. I know a lot of times it's tight for people right now.
Right. And
I would recommend, this is where the big tip is don't put your money in Chase. Don't put your money in Wells Fargo. Why? Because you get a 0.0 annual percentage yield, an APY. You want to put someplace where your money can work for you. Right. So where can you do that? You can do that on an online bank. Because they don't have brick and mortar, they have the capability of offering a much more attractive APY. So I, for instance, there's a lot of them. There's Ally Bank, there's Radius. I have one at the Alliance Credit Union, which is an online-only credit union. They do a 1.85 annual percentage yield. Now, the nice thing about that is it's a great place to store like a lot of money or just to keep your emergency savings.
Wait. So explain to me so an online bank, they don't have any brick and mortar stores.
Right.
And so are they able to then have less overhead, which they can then put towards interest?
Basically like
I
that.
See.
So like you get sent a debit card. I actually just have a savings account. And so every pay period, I transfer a little bit of money from my paycheck that goes into my Chase Bank, which I just have that connected with my debit card.
Right.
And I transfer that to my Alliant Federal Credit Union.
Right.
And that's what you do with every single paycheck you get. You should be transferring a tiny amount. I don't care if you make barely any money and you could only transfer $10.
Yes.
Or $5.
Yes.
But you should make that a habit. You should start getting into the habit of like paying yourself money, even if it's only $5, $10. Yeah. And if you make more money, great. Have it be $50, $100. So that over time you have an emergency savings account. Because guess what? Shit's going to go wrong. Yep. Sooner or later, something in your life is going to happen that's going to be fucking unfair. And you're either going to be the type of person who can fucking handle it, or you're going to be the person who all of a sudden is bitching about it and doesn't know what to do and needs to go to your friends. And for me, like the definition of being like an adult, of being a man, of being responsible is being able to handle your own shit.
Yes.
That's why you need an emergency savings. And you can start off small, but you keep doing that every single pay period, it'll grow. And the reason why you keep it in an online bank is because your money can work harder than you. We're going to talk about this more in next week's tip.
Oh, great. I love this. This is a 3 or did you say 5-part series?
5-part series.
Great.
So,
well, what do you think about Robinhood and like these new brokerage apps that allow you?
I think they're interesting.
And I know the stock market's risky, but I got a Robinhood app a few
Kirk, I wouldn't
ago.
say risky. I would say volatile. But I would not say risky. And you're going to have to tune into next week's tip.
Oh, interesting. I can't wait
to hear all about the stock market.
But the thing I like about Robinhood is it takes a few days to clear on both ends. If you send money to it, it takes a couple days to process, and it takes a couple days to process out if you sell a stock, even at a profit. But that prevents you from spending the money, because if you're at a store and you have an impulse buy, that's not money you have readily available.
And I think I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm just a guy who loves fucking reading about this stuff. But I would say when it comes to anything you do in the stock market, I am very much a very long-term investment planner. I am a passive income earner off investing in the stock market. And if you were looking to get this money back in like 5 or 10 years, then any tip I give you is not going to work for you. I am talking in the 20-year range.
Okay.
Because that's when compound interest can really kick in and you can really set yourself up. But for now, I want you to look at setting up an emergency savings account. And every pay period, a little bit of money goes into that account. I would recommend putting it into an online bank because you can get a higher annual percentage yield.
Well, why an online bank as opposed to, say, like a CD account? Because aren't those higher yield, higher interest?
You can. I mean, I like for an emergency saving. I think the best thing is that when you're in an emergency, you want to be able to access that money right then and there.
See. Okay.
And where there's CD, there's going to be more limitations.
Yeah.
So it's cash,
Huh.
But I would say it's nice. The reason why I don't say just have a savings account at your own bank is because you want to have a little bit of a barrier between you and your money.
Right.
So that you can't just easily get to it.
Yeah.
It's going to be, you can get to it if you need it. It's just a couple of clicks, but it's going to be one more entry.
I really like the way you think, Ron. That totally makes sense.
And let's say you're saving up for a house. Let's say you have like $100,000 sitting in your Chase Bank and you're just waiting to pull the trigger on a house, but it's not the right time to buy a house. So every year your $100,000 is losing money because of inflation. Yeah. So like you're like $10 today isn't $10 from 1990.
Right.
It buys less. So when you have it in an online bank that can do a 1.85 or a 2% APY, that serves as an inflation hedge.
That's right.
That $100,000, that's going to make you a lot more money than if you had it in Chase, where that $100,000 to make you like $20. If you have it in an online bank, that $100,000 is going to make you $2,000. And they're all FDIC insured, so anything under $250 is insured by the federal government.
That's pretty good. What are you going to say, Kirk?
No, it's just so frustrating that there's no safe bet with your money, because even if you put it under a mattress, it's like, inflation might devalue.
Inflation will eat at it. Yeah,
and that's a lot of people are afraid of the stock market, and it's because they don't understand it. But at the end of the day, the stock market is probably the best way of accumulating wealth.
Yeah, I have a tip that I'm not going to say until after your 5-part series to see if you bring it up, because you might, and I think you probably will eventually. But these are great. I love these, Ron. This is part 2 of your 5-part series.
If you have any questions, again, I'm not a financial analyst, so like do your own research. Obviously,
Yes.
I'm just a guy you're hearing on a podcast.
Right.
But do your own research, look into it, and if you have any questions, you feel free to tweet at me at Ron Babcock, on Instagram at HeyRon, or yeah, that's fucking it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Or hit me on my website, heyron.com.
That's right. Well, thank you very much, Ron. Great tips. We should get to a summary of last week's debate, guys. Last week, Kirk, we debated whether or not social media is making us depressed. What do you think?
Yes and no. I would say no.
Okay. It actually kind of boiled down into two arguments.
If you're letting other people's lives depress you, then there's probably something wrong with you that you need to fix.
Okay, we'll get to that. Okay, that's an interesting. I want to see what you think of this point I bring up in just a minute. But I want to say the results from last week's debate. We asked the audience whether or not social media is making us depressed, and with 78% of the vote,
That's high.
yes, correct. That is the correct response. It is making us depressed, but
Should it?
Should it?
make us
Yeah.
depressed? That's what
Okay.
it got down
that's
to.
what Dreadmere was arguing last week. It was Dreadmere and Camilla.
Yeah.
And they argued that it is, but it shouldn't. Okay, and that's kind of sounds like what
It's
you're
very
saying
much
too.
from where you're coming from, which
Yes.
is like, yeah, you were responsible for how, like, you shouldn't let other people determine how you feel, is what they were saying. That, and because Dreadmere is very much a personal, individual responsibility. You know, I mean, you know, his head is the fountainhead. You know,
Well, yeah, and a lot of people do go to social media to seek a false sense of self-esteem by like virtue signaling or posting a picture. Hey, I'm on vacation. You get a bunch of likes and all that stuff.
Validation, stuff like that. But let me ask you this. So here's the crux of my argument I was making. Social media has done experiments on their user base where they will intentionally try to manipulate your news feed to see if they can change your
I think I remember
mood.
this point. Yeah.
Yeah. When they do that, they could potentially manipulate somebody who is suicidal, and it could be the catalyst that pushes them just over the line. It is clearly making us depressed, but that seems like something where it's outside your realm of control. If you're on the social media app and you have a certain expectation, you trust that it's not going to, say, intentionally make you depressed. Isn't it then like a violation of your trust? Isn't it then a violation of the basic contract you signed with this company that they are intentionally manipulating you psychologically?
I mean, is that in the terms of service that they might manipulate? I mean, are they?
Not.
I mean, I don't really know enough about this subject, but my opinion, if social media is making you depressed, either fix yourself or get off social media. It's not good to be depressed.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that's easier said than done,
Yeah.
but
Are you a depression is a choice kind of guy?
not yes and no. I think people can get out of depression by focusing on themselves, but yeah, it can be really hard and really difficult. And
I just laughed at a really great comment. I saw in the
let's
chat.
hear the comment.
Jack the Stripper said, I'm going to sue Ron. I mortgaged my house and put all that money in those dryer balls, and I never recuperated that investment.
Yeah, so Ron, 4 or 5 episodes back, his Babcock tip was these dryer balls. They're these wool dryer balls, which by the way, Ron, I bought, and I have a review.
Get on your shit.
I did. I bought. Okay, so you're supposed to buy these wool dryer balls, and then you buy some essential oils, and you drop.
Instead of using like dryer sheets or fabric softener.
I remember this tip.
Yeah.
I found it very fascinating.
So, have you tried it?
No.
Okay, I did try it, Ron, and I have a review, and it's mixed.
Oh no!
Oh.
Yeah, it's a mixed review. So I did that for the first time, and I thought I smelled my laundry, and it didn't smell like the oil or anything like that. It just smelled like.
I've actually never used the essential oils.
Oh, what do you use?
I don't use anything.
You just throw it in there.
I don't like my clothes smelling like shit. I like my clothes coming out clean.
I don't like my clothes smelling like shit. So that's why I throw the dryer balls. And so the fabric softener or whatever. And so I tried it with the wool and the drops of thing, and it's very faint, and I thought maybe I didn't use enough. So I'm still experimenting with it.
Okay, so how many drops did you put on?
1 per ball, like you said.
Okay, that's a good. Okay, so then
Good
you're gonna
starting
ratchet
point.
it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna ratchet it up.
But did you find out? Did your clothes have? Did they have static cling? Did they have any of that shit?
No, and I never noticed that anyway. But it seemed fine. Everything else seemed fine, and I still have them in the dryer. So I continually.
All right,
Yeah,
you keep using them and get back to me.
Yeah. Maybe the oil I have is not very strong. I got to use a little bit more.
Just do 2 drops per ball. Go crazy. Live your life.
I'm going to go nuts with that oil. I'm going to have real oily balls.
I do want to say, so the depression, so yeah, there are like instances where like, you might get fired or like your significant other might like die in a car crash. Yeah, those are outside factors that make you depressed, but ultimately it is up to you to overcome it and find meaning in life.
Well, okay, sure, but
it is not your fault that you're depressed if someone, if you get fired or just fall on hard times due to circumstances outside of your control.
I think we sometimes...
I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to look at depression as something that... I think a lot of people who may view depression as a choice, like maybe have never dealt with it, as they don't know what it's like to be in it. But I also think that they're right in the fact that if you want to stop being depressed, you do have to make like positive choices. But it's just I've never been depressed like that. And I don't know what it's like. So it's difficult to like speak on it.
I'll tell you what it's like. And I'll tell you why depression is so hard to kick and so many people deal with it. When you feel depressed or anxious or overwhelmed, you are not able to focus on your work and you're not able to accomplish the things that you want to do, like going out and being social, finding a date, getting a new job, or doing the things you want to do to make your life better. And when you're not able to accomplish the things you want to do, it makes you more depressed.
Yes.
And then it becomes this cycle.
The thing is, like, I feel like in our society, and I feel like it's getting better, is that we need to stop not criminalizing depression. I don't know what the right word is. But
demonizing?
Demonizing. Where like it's something that happens to you sometimes and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it will pass.
Right.
But I feel like sometimes it is demonized and that doesn't solve anything. It's like, because I think it's an easy thing to do, but I don't think it's very productive.
I agree. Well,
that's not the Babcock tip. The Babcock tip is an online savings account.
That is not the Babcock tip, but we put another vote to the test last week. Last week we asked the audience, Kirk. I suggested a new nickname for Ron. I said, should Ron Babcock permanently change his name to Ron Squatcock? We got the results in, and with 68% of the vote, yes.
Oh, fuck.
Congratulations. Sorry, apologies to your girlfriend. You are now Ron Squatcock.
Oh man, honestly, it's just as bad as Babcock.
Sounds like it's. I would say it's a little bit better. I think because it makes it sound like you squat.
Squat cock.
Or you have a squatty cock.
I got a squatty cock. What does that even fucking mean?
Like a squatty, like a stocky cock.
Stocky cock.
Ugh,
oh
stocky,
God, just stop.
All right, we should stop, guys. I got some voicemail, and then we'll get some quick news headlines. We got a bunch of voicemail. Like I said earlier, they lit up Dreadmere. Here's one. This is a caller called in because she got inspired based on Dreadmere's advice. Dreadmere had some advice last week. Listen to this.
Hey, Maddox. Listening to Dreadmere on the last episode has taught me that if I want to feel better about myself, instead of feeling sorry for myself because I can't measure up to other people, I should take steps to become more like them. I'm 12 years old and my role model is Kim Kardashian. So as of November 17th, you will be talking to the youngest person in the state of Texas to receive breast implants, a butt lift, and a tummy tuck. Thanks, Dreadmere.
Yeah, great advice there, Dreadmere.
Hey, it's working out for Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, great. But I mean, the point being that you can't always try to emulate the people you look up to on social media. Like he was arguing.
He was arguing like, hey, if you want to be like them, like if you look up to them, then be like. It was just kind of like,
you know what I'm fucking tired of is lifestyle bloggers posting videos of themselves making smoothies every fucking every morning. It's like,
and guess what? We all know how to make a fucking smoothie.
Yeah, and we all know how fucking healthy it is, and we don't need to see you fucking drinking it.
Seeds and fruit.
Yeah, celery.
Was it Kylie Jenner or Kendall Jenner tweeted oh, I just ate cereal with milk for the first time in my life. Oh, what have I been missing? And someone said, you're lying. Here's an Instagram photo from 2013 of it was a picture of cereal and milk.
Oh, busted, bitch. All right, we got another voicemail here. Again, this one's shitting on Dreadmere because Dreadmere's talked about drugs last episode. Listen to this.
Yo, wait a second, dude. Dreadmere just say that drugs are a good way to get past problems in your life. Are we not going to address that? All right.
I think Dreadmere was being tongue in cheek when he said that, right?
Yeah, I think he was.
Dreadmere doesn't seem like a drug dude. I don't think he is.
No,
you're sober too, right, Kirk?
A little bit.
Okay. So no.
Well, what do you mean by sober? I mean, I drink occasionally. I smoke occasionally.
So yeah,
okay,
I would
that's
say
a little
not
bit.
sober.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Then no.
I'd say sober would mean sober.
Yeah.
Like, am I sober right now? Yes.
Oh, okay. Nothing in those Diet Coke cans.
Nope.
We got another voicemail that's criticism of, I believe it's me, but listen to this.
Maddox, your podcast made me depressed because you want Facebook, a private company, to be ethical. I'm triggered, Maddox. Your podcast is a false bill of sale. You had a cool podcast, but now you want government regulation, which isn't what I purchased from Sony. You police state fascist fuck with shitty arguments. Fuck Facebook.
Dipshit. You moron.
Did you add the music or did he add the music?
I added the
I like how he's doing an impression of you doing an impression of fans you don't like.
I was doing an impression of him doing an impression of me. An idiot. And by the way, it doesn't sound exactly like Maddox. Someone in the chat room said DJ BX says it sounds exactly like Maddox. It sounded nothing like me. It sounded nothing like me. But that guy was like, oh no. Like, what's wrong with the argument that you should if you sign up for something, you should get that thing that you sign up for, that you expected.
That's
what's wrong
fair
with that?
Expectation.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if Facebook sold us a false bill of goods with this promise of, connectivity and the social media stuff, and we gave them our data for it, and then they are doing a bait and switch. And that's what pisses people off. And I said that Sony did the same thing too, and that's why Sony got hacked not too long ago, because Sony took away features from their firmware that people bought and paid for. That's bullshit. Come on. It's like buying shoelaces that are black and then Amazon remotely being able to change its colors. Well, now they're white.
Fuck, that's kind of cool, though. I mean, just to have that shoelace technology, it's insane.
LA Lights 2.0.
I would love it if I could control it through an app, but I don't want them to do it remotely. I mean, that's what they're kind of doing though with ebooks too. They didn't they change? Wasn't there a big scandal a while back where they changed like a Tom Sawyer book or something?
Oh, sure.
Or it was like Huckleberry Finn. They took out the N-word from this manuscript that was like
Ruined
sold.
it.
Yeah, I prefer my Tom Sawyer with a lot more N-words.
They sold it back to you in bonuses. You want to see those words, you got to pay extra. Anyway, here's another voicemail. We got one. Oh, okay, yeah. Every now and then we get to these corrections. Because God forbid I misspeak ever, or any of us misspeak. Listen to this. I don't even know what he was referring to, but listen to this.
Singer. You fucking dolt. Not singer. 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 Not singer. The Maddox. And I don't know how to pronounce words like singer. What
is he talking about?
I don't know.
Fuck a Nazi.
Yeah, you idiot.
I meant one of those. You know what?
Was he singer?
Yeah. What did I say wrong?
I think obviously singer.
Singer, apparently. But what's wrong with the way I say singer? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I'm saying singer.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with the way I'm saying it?
I mean, probably the way, I don't know, but we understand when Taylor used to say bag, but he would say big.
He'd say big.
And then we would shit on him for like a good half hour.
Yeah, but that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was.
I just saw Taylor.
I put it in my
night.
big.
It's not just big. He says other things that, like, anything that's like AG ends in AG, like any 3-letter words.
Did you guys go out for bagels?
We got some biggles. We played some TIG afterwards. Anyway, we got one more voicemail here. This is from the Real Christian Atheist, I believe. It says here, what's the best thing about the internet? He just had an observation. Listen to this.
Hey, Lord Maddox, it's me. I'm sure, as you realize, reading the reviews is some of the best parts of the internet. And one of those things is, like, if you ever read the reviews for, like, sex toys. Speaking about dildos, there was one that I read for a horse dildo. And it was one of the creepiest things I've seen. And I was like, just so simple and succinct. The review was, feels like the real thing.
Oh, okay. Well, great review.
Of a horse dildo.
Of a horse dildo.
So,
yeah.
meaning that they must know what the real thing feels like.
Yeah, super gross.
Wait, a horse? Is this like a dildo that's the size of a horse cock, or a dildo for horses?
I'm wondering
Or a
that
dildo
too.
in the shape of a horse.
Because if it's a dildo, that's a good one too. Yeah,
My Little Pony.
But if it's a dildo for a horse, that means a horse wrote that review.
And how can it tippy tap with those hooves?
Yeah, a lot of typos in that review.
Big keyboard.
Yeah. Well, guys,
steps on it.
now it's time for some quick news headlines. We've got some headlines from around the web. A fisherman's rescue of an entangled whale was caught on camera. Why? What's
you
the
just
point?
Fucking hate when animals have any help whatsoever. What do you feel like when somebody's drowning and dolphins come and save them?
Fine. It's like, okay, wow. Oh, show-offs. At least they did something. At least they earned their keep
Who
that
the
day.
fuck are they showing off to?
Other dolphins.
Concept of fucking social media?
Dolphins are very sexual creatures. So you don't think that the alpha dolphins are out there saving humans to show off for their fucking the chick dolphins back home?
All right.
Is this why you hate big oil? Because they saved the whales in the 19th century?
Did they? How did they save a whale?
Well, because before kerosene lighting, whales were hunted for blubber for lighting, and then Rockefeller just killed that industry.
Yeah, kerosened it up, and everybody it made everything light way cheaper.
So big oil saved whales.
I'm actually in favor of that, not because they're saving whales, but because it makes it so that humans don't have to get close to those repugnant animals anymore. A commercial fisherman is being hailed a hero after he jumped into the water off Central California coast to free a humpback whale entangled in a rope. A fucking whale is
I thought they were
entangled in
smart.
a rope. Yeah, it's a rope. It's what if
Maybe it was trying to hang itself.
Yeah, what was a giant noose in the ocean? The fucking rope got caught in the. How does a whale get stuck with a rope?
Maybe whale was depressed.
It was
on social media too much.
It was not even like a net. It just had a rope. A rescue that was captured on video in September. When the whales become entangled in fishing lines and equipment from other maritime activities, fishermen oftentimes are able to help. In this case, one fisherman literally risked his life to free the whale. Ugh. Sam Sinsteline leaped onto the massive humpback whale that had rope wrapped around its back tail. So it sounds like it might be a fishing line that the rope was... The whale was just swimming in counterclockwise circles. That's fine. Dogs do that shit all the time. You tie a dog to a pole out in your backyard, it's just going to run around in circles his whole day. It's happy as could be. Right? Is that, like, I'm not a dog owner. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen with our dog, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I would want my dog to exercise, so I'd tie it to a pole. Is that right? Is that what dog owners do? I don't know. Anyway, the whale was just swimming around counterclockwise, and I'm just going to add this, happy as can be, said Nicholas Tarrin, who shot the video of the rescue. You could tell he was stressed and being held to the bottom. How could you tell he's stressed? What, are you an expert on whale emotions now? The whale looks sad.
Whale psychologist.
Yeah. The apparent happy ending, they gave this whale a happy ending, could have turned out much worse for the fishing crew. Yeah, no shit. Death is always an option. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Pacific Fisheries, we've had people die trying to get in the water, and just last year we lost one of our responders, spokesman Justin Wiesbeck said. Whatever.
The problem with telling a whale is suppressed is you can never tell when they're crying.
Yeah, that's true. It's too and their tears are very salty. I bet that's all oceans are. It's whale tears.
Whale tears.
It's just blubbering whales.
Yeah, but as a fishing crew, you'd think they'd be like, guys, check out the fish that we just caught. Like, they just caught a huge fucking whale.
Yeah, big-ass fucking
the
whale.
Biggest kind of fish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, they just saved their competition because that whale's going to eat all the fish that they want to catch.
No, they increase their competition. Is that what you're saying, right?
No. The whale is going to eat the fish that the fishing crew is also trying to catch.
Yeah, which is a bad thing.
Yeah. So that guy, it's like, great job.
Yeah, great job, idiot. Now we're going home hungry.
Yeah.
You know who's going to be crying?
We need sushi.
Yeah, your wife's going to be crying. They'll battle axe at the fucking fish cottage.
Jesus Christ.
I just imagine, real salty, salt of the earth type of dude, lives in a little cottage, goes home, is... All right. Well, I got another story. A woman wore a giant dog's head costume during a Houston convenience store robbery. This is from Smoking Gun. A Texas woman wearing an oversized dog's head costume yesterday robbed a Houston convenience store before leading cops on a vehicle chase that ended with her arrest, police report. According to investigators, this is kind of a sad story. Colleen Dickens, a 30-year-old mother of two, robbed a striped store of cigarettes and $10 in cash. Thursday morning. Then she fled the scene in an auto, but was quickly apprehended by police officers.
I guess that's the person that Mike Rowe doesn't want voting.
Exactly.
I mean, $10. You just
Now,
robbed.
And cigarettes.
Was that all the register had, or did she just specifically need $10? Was she like on a scavenger hunt or some shit?
It is just like, it's not like you're stealing like bread and diapers. Yeah. You know, cigarettes and petty cash.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like,
just let her. And she's wearing a dog's costume, a dog hat. I saw this mask too. This like dog.
How big is it? How big are we talking?
It's big. It's like a felt dog. It's not like a latex. It's like
so. I
felt.
mean, would she have to take it off to get inside her car so she could drive? Is
yeah,
that big?
It's big. Yeah, it's
like unwieldy big. It's also like a poor choice.
Yeah, you know, what's that dog that they tried to introduce in Simpsons like as a joke?
Poochie.
Poochie. Yeah, Poochie the dog. It was kind of like a Poochie the dog head that she was wearing, like a puppet. After a short chase, Dickens emerged from her car wearing a large dog's head. Oh, she didn't even take it off. Police seized the furry costume part as evidence.
When it was taken off, did she say something like, and I would have gotten away with it with those damn kids?
One last story here. Area 52 possibly uncovered. A mysterious aircraft at a secret U.S. base intentionally was blurred by Google. Now, this is kind of interesting because I've been to Area 51. Did I tell you? I don't think I've ever talked about that.
I haven't heard this, no.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in detail some other day because we're running low on time. But I have driven out to Groom Lake Road and Area 51 and into the annexed territory out there. It's pretty interesting. I'll tell that story sometime. A long time ago,
I'm sure it's super interesting. Cut to Maddox, and then I was in the desert. And then they asked me to leave, so I did.
No, I saw a black helicopter. Ooh. For real. Like the black helicopters that conspiracy theorists always talk about, those are fucking real. They have green lights under them. Speculation has erupted over a mysterious aircraft spotted at the top secret U.S. military base amid claims that Google Maps has refused to update its satellite imagery of the area for more than 8 years. So this is kind of interesting. A lot of people who are, what are they, topographers who kind of like look at maps? No.
If it's just a large dick pic and they're, censoring.
Google's just censoring it.
Cartographers?
Maybe it's cartographers. That's right. Yeah, that's the word. Maybe it's just a giant license plate number that they just blurred out in the desert.
They think there's some sort of big thing there. They're not. I mean, I would just assume that the government doesn't allow Google to have this area satellite image because it's protected, like it's a government secret or whatever.
Yeah, military bases, I'm sure it's a top secret military base. This year, the mysterious aircraft at a top secret U.S. military base has been blurred on Google Maps, sparking wide-ranging conspiracy theories. The unidentified object was spotted at a base which has long been linked to secretive government tests and has even been nicknamed Area 52. The base in southwestern Nevada has been at the center of the conspiracy theory after Google Maps refused to update its satellite images of the area for more than 8 years between 2008 and 2016. Well, that's interesting. Maybe that means that it's updated now because they capped it at 2016. At this time, the online satellite imagery showed only several dry lake beds within the Tonopah test range, just 70 miles northwest of the notorious Area 51 facility. So it's an hour outside Area 51. By plane, you can probably get there in 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Way less than that.
Yeah. So it's just like
70 miles?
Yeah. So probably hop and escape like with a helicopter, 10,
it'd be there
minutes.
like 10 minutes.
Yeah. It was and even in a car, yeah, it's like an hour, just an hour.
Yeah, depending on the kind of road that they have.
So when Area 51, the height of the Area 51 craze happened when the movie Independence Day came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I remember because I went there right after they filmed Independence Day, but right before it came out. And the crew of Independence Day had gone out to Area 51, and they went to the closest town to Area 51 is a place called Rachel, Nevada. So we would drive out there every day for an hour and a half or so. And at Rachel, Nevada, the population of this town, I think it was like 24 people. And there was like 2 or 3 campers. Well, not campers. What are those? Mobiles. They had mobiles.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one restaurant, one bar, and it was the same place, restaurant, bar. And then they had an Independence Day. They made this like giant concrete monument there that only people who've ever been to Rachel, Nevada see. And the gas prices, like back in the 90s there was like something ridiculous, like $6 a gallon. Wow. Just absurd. But yeah, it's pretty interesting.
We're riding real close to be turning into a conspiracy theorist podcast.
Yeah,
we're just on the edge.
Well, so what happened after the whole blow up of Area 51 and Independence Day and everything? It was no longer secret. I mean, it's in so many movies that the government. It's rumored that they changed the base from Area 51 to someplace in White Sands, Utah, which is in the hills. Like it's a hilly and deserty area in Utah that is very hard to get to for anyone who's driving or hiking or anything like that. You will die. before you get to this base. So I think that's why they moved
How do
it
they
over
get
there.
fucking trucks and stuff in, full of equipment and supplies?
I think they just fly it in, or they have tunnels.
They have assistance from aliens. Duh.
Yeah, duh.
I think that Area 51 shit is way less interesting than we think it is.
Probably at this point.
I think most stuff that people are fascinated by, like in the end, like, there's some parts of it that are definitely super interesting and wow, that's crazy. But I don't think it's as cool as we make it out to be in the movies.
Probably not. They may have tested like some interesting spy planes and technology out there at some point, but nothing like as exotic as
it's just a bunch of dumb science. And who needs fucking reason?
Oh man, there was that Richard Hoagland guy who was an Area 51 scientist who defected, and he went on these like college tours and just went on and on about aliens and UFOs and shit. And I went to see him live at my University of Utah because I thought he was an interesting dude. I wanted to hear what he had to say. He's like, holy shit, is actual scientist who worked at Area 51? Let's hear what he has to say. And as soon as he opened his mouth, I'm like, oh my god, he's lost his mind. He's talking about like,
because you know that dipshit you work with. It's like everybody works with the dipshit.
Yeah.
Like, what if that's the guy who's going out on tour giving talks? Like, you don't know where he ranked.
He spent like 30 minutes talking about the face on Mars and talking about the ancient civilizations that we have evidence for that existed on Mars because of these pyramids and stuff. And then around that time, NASA released photos of the area the region he's talking about, like the pyramids on Mars, from a different angle. And it's just like some rock formations where the shadow's being cast in a certain way. It looks just kind of triangular. Not even a pyramid. Anyway, we're getting off in the woods here. Kirk, where can people find you?
Twitter /Kirk Wilcox, YouTube /Kirk Wilcox, KirkWilcox.com.
Very cool. Check it out. And Carnegie Times is
Carnegie Times, too.
Yeah.
CarnegieTimes.com.
Kirk's a very funny dude, too. Like, follow his Instagram. It's Kirk Wilcox on Instagram.
I think it's Kirkomania on
Kirkomania.
Instagram.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Didn't get that username down quick enough.
And Ron, where can people find you?
People find me at Hey Ron on Instagram, Ron Babcock on Twitter, or just go to my website, heyron.com. Also, you can listen to my album for free on Spotify.
That's
This
right.
Guy by Ron Babcock.
Yeah, Ron does not mind. Ron, we're on. I don't think you would mind if your album was in libraries.
Absolutely not.
No.
That's why I always mention it for free on Spotify.
Libraries are the Spotifys of books.
Ask your local library to get Ron Babcock.
Yeah.
Fuck whales.
Squat Cock, we changed his name.
Yeah, God damn it.
Thank you again for coming on, Kirk Wilcox.
Thank you, Maddox, for having me on.
Deputy Moderator. And thank you to the Rear Admiral of Tangents, Ron Babcock.
I'm following Kirkomania right now.
Amen to that. But most of all,
it's about time.
You're welcome.
Hey, Maddox, I'm starting a God damn it. You know what? I'm going to just go with it and then try to do it again. Hey, Maddox, I'm starting Hey, Maddox, I'm starting an Australian company called Butcher Cox. Fuck.
He called like 3 times trying to get that Australian accent. He finally got it done. I was listening. I was like, it's okay.
Hey there. Don't forget to subscribe to Madcast shows on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. Okay, bye. Madcast Media Network.